Season 5. But before we all go into that, 18MJ. So, let's start with a brief introduction. Season 5 is different from other seasons we've had up to now. It shares some similarities only with Season 1. However, it is packed with new mechanics, some of which we will go over in this video. There will be 8 war zones contesting each other during the season, but a key difference here is that we can finally say goodbye to factions. It's now every server and alliance for itself. Let's start with the map. The map consists of a total of 9 areas, a central area, and around it 8 areas, 1 for each war zone. Both the central area and each individual war zone is divided into pieces of real estate with 6 distinct types. Trailblazer banks, cities, grand nexuses, war zone outposts, the Golden Palace situated at the center of the map central area, and finally trade posts. Trade posts have the exact same mechanic as the previous seasons. The grand nexus of each war zone functions as its capital. It can be captured by alliances outside of that war zone. The banks are similar to Season 1 strongholds with some extra functionality beyond the scope of this video, and the cities are similar to Season 1 cities granting influence points, which is the metric used for alliance ranking during the season. One important thing to note here is that in order to declare war upon any piece of real estate, you need to own a piece of land connected to it. The sole exception being outposts, which is sort of a server bridge, allowing any alliance of the same server as the alliance that owns it to attack adjacent land. Finally, it can be attacked by any alliance of a server which has an alliance owning adjacent land to it. Outposts have to be initially repaired by all members of the corresponding war zone. The alliance with the most contribution to the outpost repairs ends up owning the outpost. Subsequently, they can be declared war upon, with a fight for outpost capture being similar to a capital fight. The entire server can participate in a capture attempt or its defense depending which side you're on. The fight for outpost captures is only on designated times, typically 12 hours after reset, and will happen only 3 times, on weeks 5, 6, and 7 on Wednesdays. This means that alliances planning to capture multiple outposts for challenger rewards need to do it in parallel and plan for accordingly, so that the server is connected to the target outposts. The alliance that will contribute the most in the capture ends up owning the outpost. Here it is important to note that there is a clock on it, and failure to capture the outpost within a time frame will result in the alliance previously owning it retaining that ownership. Furthermore, the outpost grants 100,000 influence points to each alliances of the war zone that owns it, allowing for a small boost on the influence and final ranking of the entire war zone. Now that we have covered outposts, we can move on to cities and banks. Unlike Season 1, cities and banks cannot be freely declared war upon at any time past their protection state. Once they are owned the first time, war can be declared on them only within 3 wartime windows 7 hours apart. Each alliance owning a city can opt out of one of 3, during which it will be free to attack, but protected against incoming attacks. Banks are free to attack at any day during those windows. However, cities can only be attacked on Wednesdays, again limited to these windows only. Now moving on to city battle mechanics. Cities in Season 5 can only be reinforced by 20 squads. When all 20 defending squads are kicked out of a city, any further incoming attacks will cause durability damage to it. When durability reaches 0, then the city has been taken. Here again there's a clock on it, so delaying the capture long enough can help retain ownership. This also means that timed attacks can work here like they did in Season 4 against the Alliance Center. Given that only 20 squads can reinforce at a time, it is imperative that these squads are the strongest in the Alliance. Distance to the city is also extremely important, which means that efficient body blocking can be a deciding factor for these fights. Alliance members with weaker squads can focus on support roles, like reinforcing stronger players in the mud to lessen the blows they are receiving, and of course body block. To max out the distance, opponents have to cover the land and attack. Another important note here is that for the people reinforcing, defensive tactic cards are a must, especially the one providing defensive regroup, which cuts the round-trip time of reinforcing squad by half. Removing tiles in the area prior to a defensive battle is also important, as they can be used for faster delivery of attacks. The battle mechanics for banks are a bit different. For banks, you need to be able to hold it all the way up to 100% to capture it. Again, there's a clock on it. So preventing the attacker from reaching 100% is in essence a successful defense. Again, the reinforcement count is limited. So the bank will be changing hands all the time in an equal strength fight. Same principles apply here as in cities regarding squad power. However, tactic card selection can vary depending on your estimate on whether you'll be an attacker or a defender for most of the time. However, it is important to note here that because of the difference in capture mechanism, timed attacks cannot work against banks. In fact, they can be detrimental because weaker squads may end up reinforcing it once you manage to kick out the opponents. Finally, the battle for the Golden Palace is pretty much like any other battle for a capital. One note though, like with any other piece of real estate, in order to be able to attack or capture the Golden Palace, you need to own land adjacent to it. Fights for the Crystal Palace are on a designated time every Saturday, typically 12 hours after reset. Thank you all for watching. This video has been brought to you by Hater Productions. P.S. 18MJ